Thank you, Pamela Sweeney. This is one of my favorite human beings. She's amazing. Thank you, Pamela, for all you do. She has been a huge advocate for Biscayne Bay, and the RAP, the Reasonable Assurance Plan, is going to be critical. If we don't get this RAP in place, then we're just going to keep chugging along here. And so it is up to everyone in this room to hold our elected officials, to hold Derm, Pamela and her team to getting this RAP done. 2 years is not going to come fast enough for me. So I'm going to continue doing what I do every day. Does anybody know my rule number 1? Always show up. What's rule number 2? Never go away, right? I'm not going anywhere, and I need to see that RAP in place. And Irela hit it, stormwater. So I'm going to do something. We are back almost on schedule. I'm going to do something that's a little dangerous here. So there's a lot of elected officials who come to these events, and you got to name them all, right? But I'm going to specifically give a welcome to Senator Alexis Calatayud. And I am very grateful that she showed up today. Did anybody come with me to Tallahassee about the statewide plastics preemption that was going through, which would have eliminated all local regulations on single-use plastics and foam? Well, that bill died in her committee. I do not know what role she had, but she is the chair of that committee, and that bill would not have shown up if she wanted it to show up. So if you had anything to do with it, thank you very much. Your aides were fantastic to speak with, and you'll see me again in Tallahassee and throughout the year as well. So thank you for showing up today. It is also my great honor today to introduce Commissioner Regalado, who has been leading on the county's septic to sewer conversion.
I'm really tall for a Cuban, 5'5". But, the good thing is with the people in this crowd, everything is set the right size. So thank you for that. You did line friends. Because we usually get to these events and it's all set for someone that's like 5'10", and we're trying to figure out who those people are. First and foremost, my name is Commissioner Raquel Regalado. I represent District 7, which is Key Biscayne, the city of Miami, Coral Gables, South Miami, Pinecrest up to the Falls, what is our coastal area along South Dixie. I'm a native Miamian, and I am totally and completely obsessed with talking about shit. This is a weird thing. It's like a weird thing for a politician to say, because most elected officials are like Instagram politicians, they want like a 20-second clip, and they want to hug babies, and they want to talk about, international things and everything that is clickable and fun. I am the opposite. I enjoy talking about the things that nobody wants to talk about. So whether it's waste and garbage, and that's under my committee too, infrastructure that nobody cares about or sees, or shit, I'm all in. So I've been obsessed with this for a very long time. I was hoping I had more time because I was going to give you a whole history on how civilizations have been impacted by their inability to take care of shit. Specifically, the Great Stink in the 1800s. We can go on and on and on about why septic to sewer is so important and how it isn't new. But I'm very proud to say that although my colleagues at first, the ones that retired and now the new ones, were horrified every time I said shit at the Board of County Commissioners, they've now become acclimated, and we're at a point where I've made shit sexy. So I'm very excited about that. We should all be excited about that. I talk about shit in Tallahassee with our colleagues. I talk about shit in Washington. Everyone is horrified. And I talk about shit every other month. One of the jokes that our chairman says is that I will find any opportunity to turn an item that has nothing to do with septic to sewer into an opportunity to talk about shit. So I'm very proud of that. I'm a little obsessed, and I'm here today to give you an update. I'm going to try to go fast because I know you guys have a million things to do. But first and foremost, it's really important for you to understand where we found ourselves. So I turned 50 in July. And before I was born in 1973, the county issued a report saying that the septic tanks in Miami-Dade County were impacting Biscayne Bay. That was the first true kind of septic to sewer call to action. And that was put in a shelf somewhere. And over the years, the county did the opposite. They actually made it cheaper for folks to build septic tanks and for folks to connect. And I started talking about this in 2014 when I ran for mayor, because at that point, there was a movement to privatize water and sewer. And there were a series of things that were put into the county code that actually made it very difficult to do this work. All right, so any opportunity to push shit emoji, I'm also very excited about that. Water and sewer and I have a lot of jokes. I'm so glad that Pam was up here talking about Carlos Hernandez. Since I got elected, I bought 23 items to change water and sewer so that we could do this work, and he worked on every single one of those. It is such a tremendous loss to Miami-Dade County. Carlos was amazing. So we currently have approximately 120,000 properties using septic tanks. We believe that 9,000 of those are currently vulnerable. And we expect that to rise. However, I will tell you about that expected to rise number. Those are the concrete tanks that are already in the ground. One of the important things that we did is concrete septic tanks are illegal in Miami-Dade County. You can no longer put them in, no exceptions, done. We are done with these things. They were leaking from day one. It was never sustainable. We never should have done it. And now if you're putting in a septic tank, it has to be a fiberglass septic system that is self-monitoring. It has a completely different set of rules, and we know that it won't impact the bay. We can't say that we're gonna connect everyone, but we're gonna try to do our best, and we'll talk about that. But moving forward, we're not making the problem worse. So one of the first things I brought was a moratorium on all county-owned property where the county could not put in a septic tank. And then we changed it so that it has to be a fiberglass system. And this fiberglass system is important because over the years, one of the things that was done in order to shrink water and sewer and to move it towards privatization and splitting it up so that the county wouldn't do this work was to make it so expensive to connect that if you were a developer or a homeowner, you would choose a septic tank. Now it's the opposite. The fiberglass system is so expensive, it's actually cheaper for you to connect. So for those people who have access to laterals or for the hole in the donuts, they are connecting. So that's one of the reasons that we're really excited about the work that we've been doing. And obviously, I don't need to tell you how bad having shit in your water is. I mean, that's kind of simple. But if you want to talk about that, we could talk about it offline. We had very interesting meetings in Pinecrest when we got rid of their wells, and there were people like, oh, don't take my wells. Carlos was on there, and we were talking about all the different calls that we get to Durham. And one of the reasons I wore this suit today is because we had one Pinecrest resident that said, I called Durham because I turned on my water and it was this light blue color. I drank it and it didn't taste bad, but I wanted you guys to come out and test it. Well, her neighbor's septic tank, he used toilet blue water cleaner, was leaking into her well. So there you go, fun times. This is why they don't book me for lunch. So where are we now? All right, so we've made a lot of policy changes, you know, focusing on really making it possible for water and sewer to grow. So what are the issues? The septic tank was the first one. The second one was the pump stations. For those of you who do this work, you know, pump stations are where we get hung up. We have money at water and sewer, and we've been waiting for a place to put the pump station. Nobody wants a pump station by their house. Everyone thinks that this is horrible. Well, now, first of all, no more private pump stations. So in Miami-Dade County, if a developer's coming in, they must turn the infrastructure over to water and sewer. I did a report that actually showed in what poor shape these private pump stations were and how they later became a problem for us because people don't know these. They buy a property, it has a pump station, they don't know what that is. So moving forward, that's the number one thing. They all belong to water and sewer. And now you can turn it over to water and sewer and create a sub-regional pump station. So historically in Miami-Dade County, when we've talked about community benefit and zoning, we always talk about jobs. And I've been able to change that conversation to talk about infrastructure and an opportunity to add infrastructure and to have the neighbors value that infrastructure. So if there's a development coming to your area, they're going to do a private pump station. Now you can up the ante, turn it into a sub-regional pump station, connect all the neighbors, and then we can deal with your floodwater and stormwater issues. But now at least we've gotten you the infrastructure to connect you. The other thing that we've done is we used our dock stamp money so that we can help our residents for that connection from the door to the street, right? Because everyone says, okay, well, they're putting in the infrastructure, but I got to pay 15, 20,000 to connect. Well, now you can get a 0 interest loan to do that work from the county. It runs with the property. There's different types of programming, and it does not take into account the value of your home or your income, because we need people to do this work. And if there's a lateral there, we need them to connect. So these are just some of the things that we've done. We're working on a few other issues that have to do with capacity and making it easier for folks to do this work. I'm also bringing another 10 items to the Board of County Commissioners that deals with the implementation of this work. And we have commissioners that are doing the work. So we have Shenley Park that's online. We have OGIS that's online. I'm working on Coconut Grove. I'm working on South Miami. We have our municipal partners that are on board, and we've given them the tools to explain how to do this work. Our state partners have been amazing, giving money to our municipalities so that we can do it. And the way that I explain it to folks is how to get to the end of this. Yes, it costs billions of dollars to have a fully connected system, but we cannot have a third world water and sewer system. I go to every single one of my schools, and when I talk to my residents, I remind them that they send their kids on spring break to the Dominican Republic or to somewhere else to put in water infrastructure, and we live in a place that doesn't have water infrastructure. Until a few months ago, I had people in Pinecrest that were getting water from wells. That is not okay. We have people that have septic tanks that are ruining our aquifer, that are contaminating the limestone. We talk about the Bay, but it does so much more on its way to the Bay, and we need to stop. So we need to educate our students. We need to educate our residents. It is an expensive undertaking, but it is one that we have to prioritize. Just because you don't see infrastructure doesn't mean it's impacting your life. And I will say this, there is a benefit to what's happening with the weather. The last few rain events that we have had, particularly in OGIS, we're seeing it in Coconut Grove, we're seeing it in South Miami, we're seeing it in North Miami Beach. These failed septic tanks, nobody cared about them because they were just hurting the Bay, and it just seemed like a problem that wasn't yours. But now when you have 2 to 3 inches of water sitting above that septic tank for about an hour and a half, guess what happens? Now the septic is coming into your home. So times have changed. And now it's not just a problem with the Bay. It is a quality of life issue. And we know that people are upset about it. And that's why we need to continue to do this work, continue to educate people on how this is the one way that we can best impact the Bay. Listen, we know what's killing the Bay. It's the ag runoff. We can't do anything about it. We've been preempted. It is what it is. Higgins did her best so that we don't do it as residents. But the number 2 is the septic tanks. So yes, it's a big issue, but we can do it. And I'd like to thank my board for all the support that they've given us. And also for Durham and all their patients. We're going to have an opportunity as DOH and DEP stop becoming part of the state and become part of Miami-Dade County. This is a transition that's going to happen in every single county starting in 2026. We're working with the state to see if we can do it sooner, but that'll allow us to expedite these permits and to close out these septic tanks. And finally, our priority obviously now is to connect the 12,000 that have access to those laterals. So we're working on what we call the hole in the donut. And for providing folks with the opportunity to do that through funding. We're also working on a series of issues that commercial folks have. So there'll be a series of items that actually make it easier for commercial property owners to connect and to provide access to residents near those commercial areas. So happy to stick around. I think that's it. I want to say that's it. Yeah, that's it. Always thrilled to talk about shit. Thank you so much for caring about the Bay. And if you get an opportunity, Google the Great Stink and do a little bit of research on how important infrastructure is for the survival and thriving of communities. I know it's not sexy, but how we deal with waste, whether it's trash, or it's feces, really does speak volumes of what we value and who we are and our ability to thrive as a civilization. Thank you.